I will call to order this raucous meeting of the Rappahannock County Board of Supervisors. This is our regular June meeting, afternoon session. We'll be back at 7 o'clock tonight also. You'd stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, and we'll just pause for a moment of silence after that. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. It's a moment of silence. Thank you. We are a quorum of 3. Debbie is taken, I guess, a fellow position with what's called the Hunt Institute, focused on state education policy. So she had been at a weekend event, I believe, in Roanoke. So I thank her for her service and ongoing effort to learn on behalf of all of our citizens. And Van has another obligation, but I believe both will be back tonight. So with that, I will entertain a motion to adopt the agenda.
I'll move to adopt the agenda with the addition of the addendum item for this evening under new business.
Is there a second?
Just to be clear, there is two other addendum items on the agenda, one in the consent agenda and one as an informational item.
Okay.
Sounds good. I'll include those in my motion as well.
Okay, so there are a total of 3, right?
Yes.
There are 3 addendum items, and the addition of addendum items, just for the public's understanding, require a unanimous vote. And I guess the bright line for making something an addendum item is after the release of the agenda under FOIA rules. Is that correct?
It is your local rule is after the release of the agenda on the Wednesday preceding a Monday meeting.
Okay, so there are basically 3 additions, so we would need a unanimous vote. So is there
Only on those items would you need.
on those, right? Yeah. So is there a second for Christine's motion?
There is.
Okay, thanks. Discussion, and I just want to note that the addendum item that has been added for this evening is a resolution that's a response to this Department of Homeland Security, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, sanctuary community list that came out kind of out of nowhere. And just to be clear, that was a total surprise to all of us. I think it's of interest to the sheriff, it's of interest to the Commonwealth's attorney, and obviously everyone in our county, and on your behalf, interests of our board. And my only hesitation, and I'd just like to talk about it.
Oh, yeah, no, I was, as we all know, it wasn't a developing situation over the weekend.
Right.
And I think we were all challenged to figure out what an appropriate response would be. And then in addition to that, we meet once a month unless there's some kind of special circumstance that warrants our meeting again. And so we don't meet again until after the 4th of July. Before Gary circulated what he was putting together over the weekend, which didn't come to fruition. I took a look at the way some other counties were handling the sanctuary challenges and kind of borrowed from their materials to craft the addendum item for the evening.
Yeah, I guess my only question, and my reaction is, it seems that the list has been rescinded.
That's correct.
So there's part of me, given sort of the political environment in which we're all operating now, to not draw unnecessary attention to us if the list is no longer out there.
Well, the purpose of the addendum item is to take us, to express in or via a resolution what the actual stance of the county is and not take any sort of stance on behalf of our constitutional elected officials or any of our partners in any of our endeavors, but to speak with one voice as the Board of Supervisors. And I do understand that there are details that have changed since my first version over the weekend, but I expect that we as a board could work through any required changes relatively quickly this evening.
Mm-hmm. Donna, do you have any views on this?
In short, I think it would be wise to keep it on the agenda for this evening. Even if it is to say, there is nothing to say, but I don't think that's going to be the case.
Okay.
I don't think we'd be drawing any unnecessary attention to the matter.
Okay. Well, I've been taking plenty of hits lately, so I'll stay out of this one. I'll just vote with you all if you want to do it. So there's a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, next on the agenda is superintendent. Is she here?
Dr. Grimsley is on vacation with her family. She did not forward a report. As you recall, last summer, she went a few months without providing reports, so I would expect we'll work that out, but we'll see her again in the fall.
Sounds good.
Okay, that's fine. And then thank you to Lisa Palmer, who lives in the Hampton District, who's here as one of our county representatives to the REMS Council with an update. Thanks a lot for being here.
Yep. So as you know, VDH, or the Virginia Department of Health, has announced that there's going to be a transition from 11 regional EMS council service areas from 11 to 7. And this will be taking effect January 1st, 2026. The meeting of the Rappahannock EMS Council, or REMS, is to combine what we had talked about in our recent meeting is a merger between REMS and the Thomas Jefferson EMS Council meeting, and this is the Charlottesville area. So that's where we're going to merge with. The recent meetings focused on this merger and future planning. There was discussion that this was going to be a statutory merger, so one council will be dissolved and the other one will be the surviving entity. Concerns were raised about governance, continuity, which entity would survive, and how this would preserve and balance representation of volunteer and paid agencies. They decided that it would be a statutory merger and that the REMS Council thought it was going to be the stronger of the two. The two operational medical directors from the Thomas Jefferson region and our region decided to work together. They are really not used as much as they used to be, but they would work together on any differences. And there was going to be some preliminary coordination about staffing of the merger, because right now we would have too many people and we'd get nothing done. The committee structure and a joint bylaws of the two regions. The second discussion dealt with creating a partnership or an administrative partnership with the Northern Virginia Emergency Response System, or NVERS. The NVERS current service area does include the REMS area as part of its catchment area. The discussion was focused on NVERS capabilities, potential loss of regional autonomy, governance structure, and the nature of the continued presence of smaller agencies. Concerns were also raised at maintaining a 501(c) organization just to hold on to assets without a clear operating authority. The board voted to start the conversation with NVERS to see how it could help us. What they wanted to do is try to help preserve the influence of the regional EMS council as it is merged, and to have a better response to any requests for applications that Virginia Department of Health offers. The REMS Council felt that they didn't have the personnel to do the best response if it was given, and that's why they were thinking of going to NVERS. Now, both of these things were to identify, yes, we were going to merge, and yes, we were going to do a statutory merger, and two, that we were going to start the conversation with NVERS, and the REMS Council will now be going to monthly meetings as we will be meeting with each agency to determine what they will offer and whether we will go forward. And that was all that was decided.
Okay. So beyond sort of these organizational changes, just from sort of a operations perspective, I know we had the drug protocol change some months ago that at least there was some guidance, I guess, coming out of REMS on how
With the pharmaceutical?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
So
is any updates on that, or any other operational trends or changes that we should be aware of?
no,
for
the
EMS?
pharmacy program has gone ahead.
Okay.
As far as I know, everybody in the county is on board and doing what they're supposed to be doing. One of the things that was brought up is what exactly the purpose of these councils would serve. Would they be, I mean, they're usually involved in training, providing guidance for changes. That has yet to be determined what the new structure would do.
Okay.
Thank you, Lisa, for your leadership in these items. And thank you for coming and providing a full report to us. I know that's new for the representatives
Yeah,
for a request to do that. And it really is great to hear it right
Yep.
from the source rather than, getting an email is never the same. So we really do appreciate you.
Thank you. So we're going to be meeting every month. I
Lucky
think
you.
probably not coming every month to give you a report because it's just going to be small little incremental things. But I think every 2 months to say this is what was decided because we need to vote on everything. I think for the meeting that's going to be held in 2 weeks, we're actually meeting with NVERS to see what they offer and how the structure and the governance structure and how we would fit into that. My role in this is to make sure that the little companies, the little volunteer companies and rural companies do not get lost. Because right now, my impression, even with REMS, we are second-class citizen, and that's why I volunteered to serve on this committee so we wouldn't be lost.
Thank you so
So
much.
those are my questions to them as to how will we be supported and not lost with the bigger change, especially if we do something with NVERS.
Well, if there's any details or support that we as a board can help, please let us know.
I will. Thank you.
Thank you, and I think quarterly is fine too. I mean, because you've got a new burden just with that role, so don't feel like you have to rush in here all the time. But
It's not really a problem because, well, it all depends on what's on the agenda, but I know that the NVERS is first, and I know they're now talking about how they're making changes to the merged council, and that's probably going to take a couple of meetings, so depending on what there is to be said, I can keep you updated.
Okay,
you so much.
great,
Thank
thanks,
you.
glad you're there, really am, thanks. Okay, I'll go ahead and open public comment. You can talk about anything. Keep your comments to 5 minutes, and I'll tell you to wind down at about 4 minutes and 45 seconds, just so we don't go over. Go ahead. Mark Anderson from Piedmont District, thanks.
Every now and again at the Board of Supervisors, you hear something profound, and it sticks in your mind for months. Al Henry, every now and again, says something brilliant. And he was here at a meeting and he said, our court is aligned with the wrong counties. He spoke wisdom. We are. We're in the same circuit, which is a multiple county thing that judges sit in with. 2 large, populous, suburbanizing counties, Loudon and Fauquier. To the south of us is another circuit with Culpeper, Orange, Greene, and Madison. Now, which county do you think we have more in common with among those circuits? So my first priority is we need to get in a different circuit. How hard is that? I have no clue. There's probably a state judicial council. There's probably somebody in Richmond with poll. Somehow you get that done. That's point 1. Point 2, the Virginia Code has one statute that covers county courthouses and jails. It says the county shall provide a facility suitable for court purposes. Doesn't say what those are, it doesn't define it. Now we have the state law library has an annex to put out some guidelines or best practices that says this is what you should do. And I think we've been immersed in that for the past few months. That's not law. That's not a Band-Aid. There's no money for that. But that same statute I was talking about that talked about the courthouse also says the same things about the jail. And there's a clause in there, the property has to be fee simple in the county. Well, guess what? Our jail is shared with other counties and it's in Warren County, it isn't here. How do we do that without violating the statute? I think they gotta change. County attorney may know, but I don't, when that regional facility was set up. So you see my answer, it's simple. We need to be part of a regional county and or independent city courthouse that shares courtrooms on a timeshare type basis. It won't cost $23 million. It will cost considerably less depending on the county. Now, realistically, there's 4 contiguous counties that we could look at. There's also Luray County, or Page County, which is in a separate circuit altogether, but also may be more suitable than the one we're in right now. So the first thing to do is we have to find a partner. Second thing we do is have to find somebody in Richmond that knows how to fix this. And then the third thing we need to do is figure out what we want to pay for and how we do it. Now, obviously, there would be disruptions if you didn't have the courthouse right here in the county where this one is located. For example, the county attorney or the Commonwealth attorney would be inconvenienced to some extent. I suggest part of our financing plan would include an extra vehicle for this purpose with an extra position added to the sheriff's office to cover courthouse and public official security. I think that's the only fair thing to do. Still an inconvenience. The second thing it would do that inconveniences the county is our jurors would still have to come from this county. Presumably would have to be assembled here and screened and turned into a veneer and everything, and then some sort of luxury bus would have to run them up to where the court actually holds session. Well, I don't think that would be that would still be far cheaper than $23 million. The last thing I'll tell you about profound things that are said at these meetings is the firefighting professional that reports here from time to time said, based on the response time and capabilities we have in our firefighting services right now, you may anticipate your house is going to burn to the ground if it catches fire. Personally, I don't want my house to burn to the ground. I want some attempt made to save it in some fashion. I have water there and everything. And I'm told the county building committee, while it was still in existence, said part of the reason we need to build a new courthouse is there's too much risk to courthouse personnel, i.e. some nut criminal defendant or some irate client at their ruling or somebody takes a shot at one of the court personnel. I've seen that happen. It's not pretty. That's something to keep in mind. But that's a risk. On the other hand, houses burning down may potentially present liability risk to the county as well. If we were in California, which we're not, although there are people in Richmond and Arlington that wish we were, the city and county of Los Angeles right now are being sued by homeowners whose houses burned down. Thousands of them.
You gotta wind it up.
That,
Your profound
to me,
remarks.
is a greater risk than the risk I was talking about to the courthouse personnel. Thank you.
Those are great comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
Hi, Laura Grigsby.
Laura Grigsby, Hampton District. These are some thoughts that are keeping me up at night. And the first thing is all the people that tell me that I'm completely wasting my time showing up for these meetings, that nobody's really listening. So I can't say that I feel that way. I do feel that I have direct access to my supervisor, and we'll just leave that at that. The tax increase that's taking place is not just pennies. And it has the same effect as dropping a big stone in a little pond, because it's going to impact the cost of housing, because the people that are renting and sending their children to school are now going to have to pay more for their rent because the landlord is not going to be able to sustain the current rents that they have if they're paying higher taxes. That's one. And I can speak from experience because I've been a landlord for 46 years. I did it in Richmond, in Culpeper, and now here in Rappahannock County. And I feel like if you were to talk to any of our tenants, we provide good, affordable housing that is properly maintained. I noticed later on in the agenda there are, and this may seem like a little ADD, but that's okay, that there is a proposal that the state has allocated, if I read this correctly, money for an assistant Commonwealth attorney. Do we really need one? Just because somebody says it's okay and here's some money, it's still going to cost us $28,000 plus whatever. And then when the state decides that they don't have the money to support that anymore, then we are in a situation where we either have to fire the assistant Commonwealth attorney or we have to pick that up in our budget. Doesn't seem like a great idea if we really don't need them. There are other additional fees that were discussed in the agenda. That the $3 fee, if in fact, with the lovely report that Ms. Jewell prepared, if we actually have excess money at a certain period of time, why do we keep raising taxes and adding additional fees? Again, I don't understand that. I also noted that there was a comment about part of resolving the deficit in the school board request that they were going to cut buses. Well, we just gave them money for 2 buses, and now they're going to cut the bus that was supposed to be replaced this year. So if the buses are so important, why are they always the ones that are the first ones on the chopping block? Okay. I sometimes am very confused why we are offering to pay people astronomical benefits and incomes to work in one of the most desirable places on the East Coast. People should be begging us to work here. I had to drive to Leesburg, Gainesville, and Fredericksburg to get anywhere close to the kind of money that people can make here. When I graduated with my teaching degree, going salaries for a beginning teacher was $8,800 a year. Now, granted, it was when Methuselah was a baby. However, that wasn't all that long ago. So it's astounding to me when I start looking at some of these numbers, and when I stroke our check on December 5th, I wonder where that money's going. Because it doesn't feel like it's doing anything to benefit myself or my husband or the property we own, and being good stewards in this county, providing places for people to live, improving the property we own, and asking people to really take a moment and be accountable for the responsibilities that they've accepted. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
So this is a good news story.
And go ahead and
I'm
just,
Ann Yeoman, what am I, Peapod District, yes. So some of you may or may not recall that this is our second year of doing free tax preparation. And so I'm just going to give you a few highlights from this year. So our total number of returns was 70 this year. It was up 43% from last year. Our total refunds was state and federal combined, 75,331, and that was up 82%. I do have to point out on that, though, that we had one really big outlier on that. Okay. The median refund was about a little over $700. Okay. The range of refunds was from $7 to more than $10,000. For taxes that were owed, it was $36,638, and that ranged from $80 to $4,739. There were 13 people who didn't owe any federal, 7 who didn't owe any state, so it was good. I think one of the most interesting things about this is the fees that are saved. So the fees that are charged all over the place, whether it's H&R Block or your local CPA or somebody else, vary, but the sort of national average for preparing a sort of basic return is about $250. And we have heard from our taxpayers higher fees for relatively simple returns. About half of the filers, again, this year were seniors. Many of them, no, I should say, a few of them really only Social Security, but most of them actually had other income, pensions, or some kinds of investments or something like that. The most interesting thing to me was I kind of looked at our volunteer hours. As you may or may not remember, the volunteers undergo extensive training to be qualified to be tax preparers, many, many hours. And then they spend many, many hours actually preparing the returns. So just looking at our volunteer hours of 331 hours, if you look at what the Bureau of Labor Statistics gives as the hourly fee for someone to do tax returns, depending on whether you're looking at the state fee or national, the fees would have been paid more than $10,000 just for their service in doing this free tax work. So we're already planning for next year. We desperately need volunteers. We've had 3 people knocked out for various kinds of health issues this past year, including Lillian Naylor, who had been our primary greeter. If you want to let your constituents or anybody who's here or listening, we'll be happy to train you. We start recruiting seriously in October, November, Training starts in December. Some of it's on your own, some of it's in person. Not everybody has to be a tax preparer. Some people can do other things if we really need. And then we do intensive training in January every Saturday, and then starting with tax season every Saturday through the end of tax season. So I hope that we have some more people join us and we can get more people involved. Thank you.
That is awesome. Thank you. And thanks a lot for your work on that program, and I hope people continue to find out about it, and we'll certainly keep talking about it. Thank you for that update, all your work and the work of your volunteers. Anyone else? Okay, there are a few people online, but I believe, well, if anyone wants to raise their hand and talk, just go ahead. It looks like we've got a couple staff members at least. All right, I'll close public comment. Thanks everyone for your thoughtful words. I'll entertain a motion to adopt the consent agenda.
We'll move to adopt the consent agenda.
Okay, second?
Second it.
Great, thanks. Any discussion? And a reminder, any members may pull items out of the consent agenda if they wish to discuss them or vote on them separately. No more discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. All right, we're on to the greatest board in the county, the Rappahannock Recreational Facilities Authority, marked by stability, progress, motivation, excitement, and creativity.
What a long way it's come.
You guys are doing awesome. So we all know there are 3 vacancies opening up. Those vacancies are for terms expiring, if I remember correctly, June 30. Those terms include those of Becky Burr, Janie Jenkins, and Mike Selko, and I believe all 3 have reapplied. And I would entertain a motion to
Your
reappoint them.
code says you must appoint these by resolution. There is a resolution in your packet. And I have thrown a monkey wrench in that if you wanted to perfectly stagger your terms 2 per year, you could appoint 2 of these individuals to the standard 4-year term and 1 to a 3-year term. I would just need to know who's who.
You're the current appointee. Did you want to make the nomination or adopt the resolution?
Yes, I would like to move to adopt the provided resolution, amend it to include, well, I don't know who to choose. I'll just go in order. Becky Burr and Janie Jenkins as the named appointees with expiration dates of June 30th, 2029, and Mike Salco as the named appointee with expiration dates of June 30th, 2028, and waive all informalities with the appointment process.
Thank you. Second for Ms. Comer's motion.
I'll second that motion
Great.
with many thanks to everyone for their continued willingness to serve. I think I've had a chance to be a member of that authority while all these folks have been members, and everyone brings a really critical piece to the puzzle, and it's much appreciated.
Yeah, I would just echo those words of gratitude. They really are quite the impressive group. I enjoy working with them.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Okay, it is a resolution, so by roll call, we'll go ahead and approve it. Ms. Comer,
Aye.
Ms. Smith.
Aye.
And I also thank you for your service very much. Appreciate it. Okay, we're on to the other best public body in Rappahannock County, tied for first. This is the Rappahannock County Water and Sewer Authority. And we've got 2 positions on this 5-person board that are expiring July 31st, 2025. Andrew Haley has served for a long time, so long that I think Andrew and I served together like in the 1950s, probably. Maybe not that long.
12 years, yeah.
It's been a long time. First of all, I want to thank everyone for their incredible work on the Sewer Authority. I know you guys are really trying to get things shaped up, and I know this is an important time for the authority and an important time for Sperryville, probably more than ever, with all of the capital improvements needed to the plant and the collection system. I'll go ahead and entertain a motion if anyone wants to get us started on these two appointments.
Well, I think it's wonderful and not unusual for Piedmont District to once again have an embarrassment of riches in terms of individuals who are willing to serve. And we have two openings on the authority right now, and to me, it's unfortunate that we can't appoint all three folks that are willing to serve. Unless, Sherry, do you know anyone that's willing to also, I know everybody said they're really busy. Is there anyone that might be willing to step down now so we could put all three of these folks on?
I don't think anybody has come to you.
Okay, because I got the impression from that meeting in April that everybody's really busy. And certainly it's a shame if there's people that want to do the work and have bandwidth to do the work that we turn somebody away.
I mean, appointments, I suppose, could always be made at any time if someone
Yeah,
decided to.
I mean, I just think
step off.
it's just a shame not to be able to appoint all three. And I think we have some openings coming up next year,
Yeah.
so there's always that opportunity. We have heard from the authority, their opinions on this matter, and I would just say, I think everyone has great resumes. I have attended the most recent meetings, and Dwayne has been a very active participant in the authority and really helped with crafting the documents that they're working through. And I think he's a great asset to the authority at this time. And so for that reason, I would recommend that we appoint him back to the authority. And then also Josh Savvy, who's with us today, I think he would be a real asset to the authority. And I really appreciate his willingness and enthusiasm to take this on, especially as it is such a challenging time for the authority. And some of the most adverse circumstances are being required of the authority members to take on, and really is indicative of your very high character and much appreciated.
Thank you. Well stated. Second for Ms. Smith's motion.
I'll second it.
Great, thank you. Any further discussion?
Just with Mr. Seiler not being here, that being part of your policy, it would be wise for you to waive those
I
portions.
will waive the informalities. Is that what I'm waiving?
Yes.
That's what I'll waive then.
Great. Donna, do you have any comments?
No, I was just gonna, once again, extend my words of gratitude to all of those who applied, because this, I think, is probably one of the more difficult committees to serve on. And yeah, I very much appreciate all three applicants for stepping up.
Great, thank you. And I do want to acknowledge Doug Walker of Walker Bake Shop, who is the other applicant and very well qualified. And I think he in particular is someone that we want to keep close and try to involve to the extent possible, given his background, I believe, in hydrology and other related matters. So I thank him for stepping up at a difficult time.
I would echo that and just say that I hope he stays engaged with the authority, because I do believe that there will be an opportunity to make another appointment next year. And I think we would be well to take him on if he's continuing to have the willingness to serve.
Great. If there's no further discussion, this is a roll call vote. Ms. Comer?
Aye.
Ms. Smith?
Aye.
And I also thank you. Josh, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sherry, thanks for all the groundwork and getting us a great slate of applicants. Thank you. Okay, great. We're on to old business. This relates to amended fire levy guidelines. My colleagues might recall this has been bouncing back and forth a bit. Mr. Curry can at least highlight for us where we ended up on what is being changed. You might recall it relates to increasing from $7,500 to $2,500, sort of the what's classified as a capital expense. That is, larger ticket items under this change would now be reimbursable operating expenses. So it is a significant change, but I feel like it has been vetted extensively, both from county administration and from the various interested parties in the fire and rescue community. Mr. Curry, I don't know if there's anything else you want to add here.
Other than, I did misspeak to you earlier when I said 75. It was started at 7,500 when I was first here. It bumped to 10,000, I think, within a year or two. And now the request is for it to go to 25,000. And just to reiterate what you said, is that expenses that are less than 25,000 are automatically, that are appropriate, are automatically considered operational and included within the board's aspirational to fund them at 100%. And that's the main change. The rest is really cleaning up the language. The Fire Levy Board had a pretty good back and forth conversation about the different words. As simple as just making sure the Rappahannock County Fire and Rescue Association's name is listed properly, which it wasn't before.
Great, I appreciate that.
So the association's approved it, the chiefs have approved it.
The association provided some comments. The Fire Levy Board reviewed those comments with, and Mr. Carter is involved in both because Mr. Carter's on the Fire Levy Board. So not all the recommendations from the association were ultimately included in the draft, the version in front of you that was recommended unanimously by the Fire Levy Board to include Mr. Carter. And the biggest difference was the association wasn't so sure that pharmaceuticals should be broken out as a completely separate category. Mr. Stevens and I think that that's important because it's the new expense and that we are able to, for many things, use opioid abatement dollars to help with those. And so we want those categorized as much as possible separately. And I think it will allow us to see whether we have a large issue with waste due to expiration that would inspire us to maybe do something more comprehensive across the county so that we aren't buying a lot of 25 in 4 different places that all expire before we can use them.
Was the feedback that not including those was not overly burdensome, or have you received that?
It would be categorized there. It would be either somewhere in the document, just whether it was a separate category was thought to be just a change that might not be needed, but we think it is appropriate.
Okay, if you want to make a motion.
I don't, this is a lot of money, it's a
Yep.
big jump.
For discussion, how about that?
Well, I've made, I think, all the motions today.
It's a small crowd. I mean, I'll happily jump in and start moving things, but I don't have a lot to choose from here.
I know, I'm trying to work with you, this is a
These are
big
two-
jump, and without knowing that the association and the chiefs have all heartily endorsed this, I have a hard time getting on board with it.
Well, I'll make this motion for the sake of discussion.
Okay.
Because I too have some
I'll
questions.
second. So discussion. I mean, here's my thing. I've said it before, and we're going to talk about it tomorrow night at this public safety meeting. I don't like the way that we handle fire and rescue accounting in the county. I think it's unnecessarily cumbersome. I don't like the fire levy board process. I think our general ledger at a county level needs to reflect in one place all of our expenditures related to fire and rescue, whether it be to volunteer fire and rescue companies or to ALS 1400. I think we need to see everything in one place. And I also think that this should be direct review by the Board of Supervisors. It can still be some form of reimbursement process, but it needs to be a budgeted process. Right now, we're basically using a fire levy board to vet requests for reimbursement of operating expenses, which is what the services agreement states we should do. But instead, what I would like to see, like any other county department, is to see from each fire and rescue company, including ALS 1400, I'd like to see a front-end budget request that says this is what we think based on 3 years of experience, average, simple average, weighted average, whatever, this is what we think we're going to need this coming year. Then that $25,000 cap on operating expenses becomes less concerning because we actually know where people are starting the year and likely, hopefully, where they're going to end up, plus or minus some room for error. But I think that from a county perspective, aside from the schools, very soon, EMS in particular is going to be a big ticket item. And that to me demands a change in the way that we're handling this whole process. So, I don't, if I, along with the majority of my colleagues, can affect a significant change in the way that we're accounting for expenditures in the fire and rescue community, then I can live with this. But absent that kind of change, I can't.
I would just say, I agree with a lot of what you're saying. I know that the question is sort of whether to eliminate the fire levy board or not. I don't know that that's something that I would agree with offhand, but I agree with the lack of transparency in the way these funds are expended. Maybe that's not the right way to put it, but it needs to be a cleaner accounting practice, in my opinion, so that when we want to see where these dollars are going, it's all in one place. Also with that, the other part of the equation, which is equally challenging, is the strategic planning and what the current situation is, where the most calls are, what the response times are, so that we can strategically plan for the future. It's a two-part answer to the problem. And until we know those details, in my opinion, we're not putting our tax dollars in the right place.
Right, and I think you're exactly right, and it's about operating as a system. We have individual companies with their own unique cultures and their own unique people, but we have to operate as a system. I mean, Ms. Grigsby points out that, in fact, the county doesn't provide many services, but one service we need to provide and have to provide are emergency services with very tight response times, within reason, within the topographic and geographic context that we have to live with. Now, going back to your overview, I thought I heard that we did have support from the chiefs and the association. You're saying we don't. So
Well,
which is it?
I heard that we got comments and the comments were incorporated, but not all of the comments, which means to me that it hasn't cycled back through for it to be approved by those other entities, which means, but I don't want to prolong this any more than we need to. But I mean, I wonder if we can just table this and those folks can review it and voice their comfort level with it. And we can adopt it next month when Mr. Carney is here, who is our appointee to the fire levy board and is probably best equipped to move this along.
Well, and I mean, I might be getting ahead of myself, but there's a chance I'll come back with a recommendation from the public safety body after tomorrow night's meeting. So maybe that's further rationale for
That's another entity we
tabling
have
it.
not heard from.
Yeah, so
Yes.
the timing of this is, it brings it to you at this meeting so that if you decided to make a change, it would be effective for the second half bills of the, I guess, the first half bills, the bills, second half bills, January through June bills, there we go.
But if we want to spend that money, we can just spend that money. We don't have to do this.
But these rules apply to the accounting that each volunteer fire and rescue company must now jump through those hoops when they submit their fire levy requests and all that information that will come to that body in July. And so they need to know at some point in time what those rules are. That process could be delayed if the board wanted, because it's not critically time sensitive because we're not in the process of developing a budget.
I say we table
But
it.
they need to know what rules apply to January 1, 2025 through June 30, 2025.
That's fine. So we can do that in July, but what's the answer? I mean, is there more work to be done? Are there more questions to be resolved?
I think
or not?
you could bounce it back and forth for a long time, but the chief's letter is here before you,
Yeah.
or the Fire and Rescue Association letter is here before you. Nearly all these comments were incorporated. The Fire Levy Board received them, debated them, considered whether, all things that they knew made sense. And that include Assistant Chief Burke and Chief Carter, the citizen representatives that you each provide. And they ultimately recommended to the board the version that is provided on BoardDocs as a recommendation. Back to the time sensitivity, you certainly can adopt it
How about this?
anytime you want.
We are later going to talk about a courthouse-related work session later in the month. I suppose we could tack this onto that agenda and just make it clean, neat and tidy by July 1, have resolution of this. I also don't want to I don't want to prolong it, but I do have serious concerns about the efficiency with which we're handling the fiscal side of our fire and rescue system, volunteer and otherwise.
Yeah, and I would recommend that if the board makes a major shift in how the funding works, it probably should coincide with the fiscal year. And that might take the next 4 months or 5 months to sort out, and you're talking about possible changes in agreements, and so it's gonna take some time. That might be independent from this, but I would not recommend adopting changes to these guidelines if the board's not of a mind to support those changes. That's what we're all about. You had a committee body basically vet it for you in advance. This is what they think is appropriate, but it doesn't mean that the board thinks it's appropriate.
Could we take it up this evening when everyone's here? Table it till tonight.
Sure. That's just a rearrange, just make a motion to move it somewhere else.
Motion to
We should
table
have done that
till,
before we start talking, but, oh well. I'm still learning, I'm new to this chair
I
again.
think you're doing a fine job.
Thanks.
so would you like the motion to adopt to stay on the table? Does somebody want to pull
That's
that
fine.
off?
I just move the item.
Well,
Move it
motion
to
to
old-
table
move it
would
to
take
old-
precedence, but it would still be, that other motion would still be there when you start
If
talking.
you move it to P2, which is old business this evening, we can
Just
discuss it as a.
Withdraw
as a
your
group of
motion.
five.
Can you withdraw your
I
motion?
withdraw my motion.
Thank you. Okay, so the motion's gone, the item's moved, we'll move on.
We'll need a,
Okay, is there a motion to move it?
I made a motion to move it.
All right, second?
I'll second that.
All right, thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Great, very
Thank you,
efficient.
Kier.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate your helping me through that item.
Yeah, it went well.
I thought it went
Team
about as
effort.
well as I could have expected.
You and I are two peas in the pod these days, so. All right, next is new commercial activity and related matters. I don't have much on this front. I don't know if anyone else wants to say anything about their respective Amosville and Sperryville commercial areas. Anything happening that's worth noting?
Busy, beautiful weather, bringing the people out. Love it.
Watch your speed in the town of Washington. It's now 20 miles an hour.
I did see that.
That's pretty slow.
I'll just note that I have had some conversation with VDOT. Those 20-mile-an-hour signs should be in the town. The town that adopted an ordinance, the county didn't adopt an ordinance. I think that'll probably get straightened out.
That's great.
I didn't catch all that. So what's the issue?
The 20-mile-an-hour signs are not located within the town. Some of them are located outside of the town.
Okay. Yeah, and there's one on a stop sign at the corner of Harris Hollow Road,
Yeah.
which I don't think is, that doesn't fit the MUTCD standard. And I know that.
So it's all done under permit. VDOT's inspecting. They'll provide valuable feedback, I'm sure.
That's a manual on uniform traffic control devices if you want to be impressed, but there's a 20-mile-an-hour speed limit sign on a stop sign, which I've never seen before. Okay, great. Hopefully, maybe someday we'll get sidewalks in the town. That'll help too. All right, want to talk about the broadband project. I've had some discussions, very informal, with leadership at All Points Broadband. I think we're getting closer to start of construction. Obviously, we want to see construction happening before anyone gets too excited, but couple of reminders to everyone on this front, very important. I continue to hear from people, and I think Donna has, and her representative to the Broadband Authority heard from someone that you go to All Points website and you put in your address and it says, we don't recognize you, and then immediately conclude, oh, I'm not getting fiber when it comes. It's not true. We're gonna hit everyone in the county that is unserved, underserved, whatever the definition. And basically, if you don't have Comcast, you're likely gonna get All Points Broadband. Obviously, once it comes in your area, you wanna know about it, and so that's the registration purpose on the All Points website. But don't, if anyone in the public goes to All Points website, pops in their address, and they don't get a green light, yeah, we're coming to your house, just let one of us know. And if you don't have internet, reliable internet, you're getting it. So there's that. And the other thing to remind people is there's a whole debate about REC and the broadband was, the fiber was gonna go on the poles. It's not any longer. So you're gonna see a lot of plowing, digging, trenching. Unfortunately, fortunately, it should be more stable. It won't be in the air, but it's gonna be a more arduous process. And, we're talking about 120 miles in the county of fiber plus another 30% of that distance for drops to people's homes, maybe.
Sure.
Yeah, so it could be a total of 160 miles. So once they get rolling, multiple crews, making progress, each crew making significant progress each week toward that 120-mile total. And we have held them, Tom Innes from All Points, to a commitment to get this done by the end of 2026. So hopefully we'll get rolling this summer. That's what I know.
I think the postcard drop is supposed to be, what, 100 days before they
90
begin?
days
90
before.
days before installation.
And I think another important thing to point out is whenever we ask for the satisfaction of knowing that as soon as they got fiber into the county, that people would start getting service, their response was totally dissatisfying. They would say, no, that's not the way it works. We got to build it out. You know, it's kind of like waking up on Christmas morning and then your parents say, oh, we're going to open gifts tomorrow. So they've come back and they've changed that a little bit. And they've said, you know what, we get it. We get it. We need to demonstrate that we're delivering a service. So I think, and I'm just saying this based on informal discussions, but I think they're now focused on as soon as they have a live fiber link into the county from the main line, they're going to start hooking people up. So hopefully sometime this summer, maybe somebody you know, will have All Points broadband. And I think that's good. And I think that's important.
Have they put that in writing to the county? Because I haven't seen that communication.
Yeah, but we certainly can ask them maybe.
That would be a good assurance to get in writing, because their last statement to us was that their focus would be on installing cabinets before they worked on passings. And as we all know, the passings are what makes the money flow.
Right.
So that was surprising to me that they would not want to start accomplishing passings quickly.
I don't think it's going to be large scale by any means, but the idea is that what I understand is if there are people in a cluster around one of the cabinets for a fiber service area, they're gonna to the extent possible without introducing a lot of inefficiency, try to get people
It
fired
seems like
and
it would
rolling.
be good for them.
Yeah.
As a company.
100%, which is why we've been asking this question all along. It's like, why build the system and then flip a switch when you could flip a switch along the way? So maybe Gary can inquire on that front. Or,
Sure.
yeah.
And the discount and what it's gonna look like when they put it in.
I like your focus on discounts. Great. Okay, so stay tuned. Hopefully we'll have more updates on construction beginning this summer sometime. All right, courthouse project. So I think the idea, and I don't think this will require a motion at this time, is it's really going to be a function later tonight after our public hearings and other old business that we deal with in the evening session. But I think the idea is to have a courthouse specific work session. I think Ms. Donahue talked to me, at least informally, about June 30th. I don't know if that works for everyone, but I think if we can agree that we'll sit down again with, would it be with Clavan Homes and also with the judges and everyone, or would it
Yeah,
be?
well, I think that would be the idea.
Okay.
I know the planning commission does have one of their outreach meetings on June 30th, which was an idea. That's at 6 p.m. I did talk to Clavan Homes. They are available on the 30th. I did check with them for the 23rd and 24th, which were kind of other possible dates. They aren't available for those. So if you can't nail down a date today, then that would allow a special call meeting after everybody tries to figure out their calendars.
Yeah.
Sounds fine.
You're fine with the 30th?
No, planning commission meets that night, and Chair
Oh.
Donahue had reached out to me to ask if I had a conflict, and I informed her at that time that that is a rescheduled evening for planning commission, comprehensive plan intake in Flint Hill.
Okay, I mean, I think these courthouse discussions, everyone should be there, and it should be a courthouse focused session. So I think we're just gonna have to find a different date.
Yep.
Okay,
And planning commission has said everyone should be at the intake meeting, so I really hate to
yeah,
miss
and I'm
that.
gonna miss the Hampton District one, I'm sorry. I'll be
Was that the 15th?
I went to the other one, but no one was there.
That was one we had to
Yeah,
cancel.
I know, I'm not trying to give him a hard
I'll
time.
tell you all about that later.
Okay, so we'll move on from the courthouse discussion. for the public's interest. I think we'll bring it back up probably, I'm guessing, in July. Maybe late June sometime, but I think we'll bring everyone together, architects and all the planning oversight committee members who are very important to the process. And we'll take into account Mr. Anderson's comments today, which were profound. Thank you. All right, new business, Assistant Commonwealth's Attorney position. Ms. Grigsby alluded to this in her comments, and Art can walk us through how this has come up. But my understanding is that the state is offering some support for a position. And Art, if you want to walk us through kind of.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. This has been a long time coming.
Is there any way you could, I hate to do this, you can sit next to Gary maybe, and just so, I want to make sure it's on the record.
Sure. I'll
Thanks.
start over. It's been a long time coming, ever since I was first elected. I've been requesting an assistant position from the Compensation Board. The Compensation Board, of course, as you know, is the chief determiner of any type of a position such as this, based on case numbers and also on the particular application. We've been lucky here in Rappahannock because when I first took office, Mr. Hennessy volunteered a lot of time and Mr. Luke volunteered a lot of time. And he was in the office with me, Mr. Luke was. As some of the board members may recall, he was the county attorney when I first started out and was for the first 4 years, my first term of office. But he also was my sounding board and unofficial assistant Commonwealth attorney. Mr. Hennessy, of course, volunteered a tremendous amount of his time. Both of those guys have told me unequivocally that they're done. So this comes at an opportune time. Jack Hennessy retired this year fully and completely, went on a big long cruise, so told me we're done. The comp board has been lobbied by our association, the Virginia Association of Commonwealth Attorneys, for all of the single Commonwealth attorney jurisdictions in the state. The goal has been over the last 2 to 3 years that each and every one of the small jurisdictions receives funding from Richmond to fund an assistant Commonwealth attorney position. I understood the lady, I appreciate her words, but the need is acute for an assistant. Most of the time, if I got sick, like I did last summer, Mr. Hennessy was able to step in and do these things for us at very little, if no charge at all. Those days, I believe, are over. We all have lives, and quite frankly, the complexity of what's coming through the door increases every year. We're now, this county is a member of the ICAC task force, so that's increased the caseload.
What is that? What's
The
that?
Internet Crimes Against Children.
Yeah.
In addition to, we've had with Detective Garcia, a lot of narcotics activity up to about a year, 6 months ago, that also required a lot of time, a lot of planning, a lot of effort. And that's in addition to the run-of-the-mill stuff. And we've also got some deputies that are bringing in a lot of DUI cases, which present in many cases lots of significant criminal procedure issues. All that being said, I respect the lady's comment, but we've had a free ride with assistance in the Commonwealth Attorney's Office for many, many years, over a decade now. It's time that we go ahead and get a actual full-timer who can handle a lot of the run-of-the-mill. Oh, the other point I want to make is I'm constantly being called to other jurisdictions as a special prosecutor. One of the good things about having an assistant Commonwealth attorney is being able to send that person to the other counties to act as special prosecutor, unless, of course, it's a very major case. So I'm asking the board to supplement the amount of money that will be coming in from Richmond by approximately, it's about $28,000 according to Bonnie's calculations, to give us a hiring range. I don't know who's going to apply And I don't know what their skill level or experience level will be, but I'd like to have the flexibility if someone comes through the door who meets the job description at a higher level to be able to offer them a competitive salary. And as I understand it, the salaries are based on a comparison with what other jurisdictions are offering for the same type of work. So I'm asking the board to give me that outside edge to hire someone in who potentially is not straight out of law school, who may have some criminal litigation experience. And that is a crucial thing. Without criminal litigation experience, you're just not qualified to do this job. It's one of those issues that you don't know what you don't know. Fortunately, this person will be under my wing, and I do know what I don't know, thankfully, and we'll be able to get this person up to speed, I hope, in probably 2 to 3 years' time. That being said, I asked the board to approve the resolution that was included in the package to accept the position of Assistant Commonwealth's Attorney in my office, primarily funded by the Compensation Board. The Compensation Board has looked at the numbers, made the decision, and they have determined that we actually need this position. So I ask you to vote accordingly, and I'll answer any questions you may have.
Yeah, thank you. I guess I'll just say at the outset, I hate to, I was a place kicker in high school, not a punter, but I'm gonna do a little punting today. So we have two colleagues who are out, but they'll be back this evening. And so I thought if we're gonna dig into possible vote on this, I'd prefer to have everyone here because it's the addition of significant county staff and recognizing that there's also meaningful state funding, but I'm inclined to punt it as far as a decision to this evening. But I guess my one question to you is, and no doubt I've observed the complexity of a lot of what you all have been dealing with, the sheriff's department and the investigator have been dealing with, everything from internet crimes that are horrible and financial crimes involving a lot of money. And so no doubt we're, as much as we live in sort of a rural, walled off place, it's not that walled off when it comes to crimes, unfortunately. So I get it, I definitely get it, and I work at a law firm, and I understand litigation generally is becoming more and more complex, and criminal stuff, which I don't know, is also following that trend. I guess my question to you is, in terms of just anecdotally and then statistically, what does your caseload look like now as compared to 4 years ago, 5 years ago? Because you've been around now for a while.
It's not hugely different statistically, but here's the problem is that you can have a lot of little cases that don't take a lot of time, and quite frankly, I'm capable with most misdemeanor type crimes of just walking in cold to it and being able to prosecute without having a whole lot of prep time. The trouble is when you get one big one that sucks down, it's like a succubus. It just takes up all your time, all your mental energies to come to grasp with how you're going to proceed. There's a lot of charging decisions have to be made, a lot of timing decisions have to be made. So one big case can really throw you under the bus as a single practitioner. And that's true if you were, a defense firm or, what was that movie with John Travolta, and he takes on this big pharmaceutical company in a poison water case up in New England somewhere, and he had a big practice, with personal injury clients coming in all the time, and he had the fancy furniture and a nice car. He takes on this one case. By the end of the movie, he's bankrupt, and it's because one case can really absorb inordinate amounts of time.
Yeah.
And we've got one coming up, so actually several.
Okay.
Okay, I agree with your punting notion. I do think this is a matter that deserves the thought and input from all of us. But I do, Mr. Goff, I do have one question. and you'll just have to forgive me for asking it, considering the thoughts, shared with us during public comment, and then hearing, you said the caseload hadn't changed that much, and express how others had stepped up to help here and there, that they were done and they were retiring. And I understand how one case can, do you end. Is this something, what would it look like if we contracted this out? Like, is this something that we, as needed, almost, because then, what would that look like? Would we save money? We would save benefits, we would save, all of the other things that come with employing someone full-time.
I think, well, my first thought is that the compensation board actually legally is responsible for this, and I'm not sure that a contract prosecutor is longer legal. I'm not sure about that.
I'm not familiar with it being done anywhere.
Yeah,
County
well-
attorney, yes.
So what I said, we got away with stuff with Jack, I would pay him out of like what I call part-time hours, like if Patricia was sick or on vacation, I could hire.
They were W-2 employees.
Yeah, and so, and I'm not so sure that would hold water. I mean, a defendant can challenge the legality of the prosecutor he's facing and the appointment process by which he's there. So I think that we'd be kind of borrowing trouble, potentially. I hear you loud and clear, but I also think that the comp board has made a considered judgment based on the statistics of the caseload and determined that we definitely qualify. And they also have a weighted scale. They'll give more weight to certain types of cases. So obviously the murder case is going to get like 10 points and the DUI is going to get 1/10 of a point. So, and they take that into account when making these calls. Because it's not always, as I said, just a sheer list of numbers. This is how many cases are prosecuted. 179 last year or whatever it was. And then the year before was 169. So it doesn't sound like much of a jump, but if in the meantime, one of those is a murder case, it's a problem. So I think there's plenty of work to do for an assistant Commonwealth's attorney, especially at this pay grade. They're going to be coming in somewhat green, even with the supplement. They're not going to have like, I've got 25 years or something, and I'm not going to get somebody like me, but I would like to get somebody that has at least 3 or even 2 years of, at least to say that they have even defended a case, let alone prosecute one. So I don't know that there's any way to save money in this realm, really. Fortunately, though, the comp board's going to pay for it, and 80%.
Just have to cut expenses somewhere else if we do it. Christine, do you have any views? I mean, I know I thought we should punt it, and here we are hashing it out, so.
I would like to hear from everyone this evening, and I understand that we have maybe not more cases, but it does seem like we do have more extreme cases in the county these days. But I also hear from people like Ms. Grigsby that, we have added a lot of personnel to our county staff since I came on the Board of Supervisors. And it's not a one-time expense, it's a recurring expense. Right. And I would want to know the minds of all of my peers on the board before I ask the county to take on a recurring expense.
Okay, I wonder if you could
I'll
put forward
make a motion that we move this item to P3, which is, sorry, it's not P3. It's, so
Well, it'd be old as
is
a
it,
bin.
is it old? Is as of now? Should it be under new business
It's
or old
gotten very
business?
old.
You can go to
It's
P.
mature.
Yeah.
I don't see new business on tonight.
It'd be Q2 if you
Oh,
wanted
Q2, I
to.
was looking on the wrong side, so sorry, Q2. That would be great.
Gary, and when Debbie's back this evening, you'll have to just make
Yeah.
sure she's clear on what, basically that we We accomplished nothing this afternoon.
Wow. We really respect our peers and would like to hear their
Thank you.
opinions as
Well
well.
said, yeah. That's what I meant.
I'll
That's what I-
second that motion.
Great, thanks. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Great, thank you. This next one we can skip over very quickly. I had just asked, maybe getting excited about the start of construction on our broadband project. We have this broadband authority, which is a separate body for, I guess, it's the vehicle for the fiscal side of the project. And in my mind, I thought since the $5.9 million of private and grant and COVID relief money that had been committed to this project had already been put into escrow, I thought maybe that exhausted the purpose of the broadband authority, but we've got really thoughtful people on it. Like Margaret Bond is one, and I was reminded that in fact our contract with the regional authority is tied to the authority, so that was my fault, and so I'll just leave that alone for now, because we got to keep the authority until the project's over. So thank you for your continued service, and I wasn't trying to get you out of a volunteer job. I was just trying to streamline. Great, thank you for all.
Double or pay, as others would say.
Yeah,
Well, I have to say, I took the earliest opportunity to remove myself from the broadband authority.
I know you did.
And so I am very thankful for the continued willingness of our volunteers to serve, especially Ms. Bond, who brings a
Yeah.
wealth of historical and institutional knowledge on the broadband authority and has been with us since it was board. Mr. Reinhardt, who brings technical experience and savvy to the project as well.
yep, they're both great, so.
Agreed, another complicated committee with people who volunteer.
Top
It's
for-
remarkable.
Tied for
So
first.
grateful.
Great, thanks. Next item of, I should remind myself, we are in new business, and this is this is an ordinance amendment within chapter 147 of county code, and this is related to subdivision of land, and there have been some state code changes, and it occurs to me that this kind of alignment of our subdivision ordinance with changes in the state code is sort of in the spirit of what we had asked the Berkeley group to handle on the zoning ordinance side of things. Art and Gary have done a tremendous amount of work. My peers have reviewed the red line document. You can see that it was quite an involved process. I would, because the planning commission must review this, I would suggest that we send this to the planning commission in its current red line draft form, and then send it back to us after they complete their review.
If everyone's of a mind to move this forward, I will go ahead and take the recommended action and move this to the planning commission for review and amendment, chapter 147, subdivision
Great.
of land.
Thank you very much, Christine. Second?
I'll second it.
Great, thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Great, thank you. Now we're on to board committee reports. I want to just take a moment, and it's not on here as a standing item, and I think a lot of people forget about the fact that we're part of this regional jail up in Warren County. And I want to publicly thank Gary Curry, who was just reelected. Who's just reelected as chair of the Regional Jail Authority Board. And why is that important? It's because we all behave ourselves in Rappahannock County, so we don't have much in the way of inmate population. I think,
We ask everyone to cross over into a neighboring county and get arrested.
right, so to put it in perspective, and this is really, and you're gonna start blushing. He's blushing. To put it in perspective, we are probably, and you'll correct me, but I think 7-8% of the inmate population.
6, 7. Shooting for 5.
Okay,
We
so.
pay based on our percentage.
Yeah, we pay based on our inmate population. And think about that. So our county administrator is the chair of the board of the regional jail, and we have a less than 10% inmate population and fiscal interest in it. If that is not a testament to what a great job he does generally and what a professional he is, I don't know what is. So I'm very proud of you. Yeah. Anyone have any other board or committee updates?
I was just gonna let everyone know, what happened with the planning commission meeting, in the town of Washington. We had decided from the beginning that the planning commission would hold these intake sessions for the comprehensive plan with the spirit of everyone trying to be at every meeting.
Yeah.
And in particular, the appointee for that district being present at the meeting. And unfortunately, the way that evening unfolded, it was not properly noticed, so it would have been a maximum of 2 members of the commission could have been in attendance. And unfortunately, Mr. Henry had a conflict and was unable to attend. With little notice, unfortunately, he was not able to attend. And so it would have left likely myself and one other commissioner, and not the representative of the district, as the entities taking the information. And we didn't think that was I didn't feel it was a fair representation of the planning commission and the county, and for that reason, I canceled the meeting.
Thanks.
I hope everyone thinks that was a good decision.
Yeah. I went back home, so.
All of the future meetings have been FOIA noticed.
Excellent.
So, all you have to do is show up.
And we also rearranged the schedule slightly because Ms. Ritter was out of town on the 15th. So we've rearranged that, or she's got a conflict, so we rearranged Flint Hill so she could be sure and be present at that meeting. So.
Great. I think, yeah, and I'm not going to be able to attend the Hampton one, but I'll attend one of the later ones for sure.
We'll try to provide good minutes for all of them.
Ms. Comer, anything from the park?
Yes,
Great.
so this Saturday is Free Fish Day, so keep that on your calendars. I think, Mr. Whitson, that's a favorite of yours, is it not?
Yeah, it is.
So please make note of that. Also, I do want to report out that the Fodder Stack 10K was record-breaking this year, and I just want to remind everyone that it was raining. It was cold, it was raining, it was not the ideal day to be outside running, and yet it was still record-breaking, so that's exciting. And then I think something that will be most interesting to this board, you might recall, I believe it was in March, we voted to give the extra money from the forest to the park, and they chose to use that money to update the basketball court.
Great.
So, like, check, one thing is off of their to-do list, and I believe that RFP goes out. If it's not already out, it'll go out any day. So great things are happening over there, and yeah, I look forward to next month when I can tell you about more great things.
That's awesome. And on the Fodder Sack 10K, I just was reminded, I want to thank publicly Sharon and Peter Luke. Every year they very generously let the Fodder Stack crowd invade their property next to the old bank, and for the post-race pizza and beer gathering. And I think that they were inadvertently missed in the accolades in the papers. So I just want to thank them for every year for being willing to let us be raucous on their lawn. So thanks to them. Our public safety committee is meeting tomorrow night. We meet quarterly, and that's at the library at 7 p.m. 7?
6.
6, yeah. Library at 6. And it's a pretty full agenda, so if anyone's interested, you don't have anything else to do on a Tuesday night, that'll be an interesting one. Okay, anything else? I mean, let's look at our cash position from the treasurer's reports, and anything else anyone wants to look at.
As is consistent with the last few months, you're putting your cash to use, investing it. That's evident by the current cash position being lower than last year's cash position at the same time.
Okay, where on the chart is our?
Right here. So if you want to see real dollars, 12,435,000 last year, 11,006,000 this year. Now, a lot of that cash is on hand because you're not going to get more revenue in for several months, and so that has to pay your monthly expenses. So by the time we get back into August, September, and the low cash parts of your year, we may dip this curve a little bit low. Had a impromptu meeting with the Commissioner of Revenue the other day about some other things that just popped into. Well, introduced myself to a new staff person and chatted with her, and she said there's a lot of things coming together that are probably going to push her later in the cycle to get her work done, which gets the bills out a little bit later, which means the cash will dive a little bit lower because while I don't always do this myself, some people just have to pay their bill as soon as they get it in the mail. And that helps our cash come up quicker, but that might not be the case this coming year.
Yeah, and I mean, I pay my property taxes every month, and if anyone doesn't escrow their property tax payments, I encourage them to do that, because it's not as big of a hit at the end of the year. And it obviously puts more cash in the bank for the county. It's obviously personal choice, but the treasurer does offer that option. Okay, great. And then Bonnie, would you remind us on your, the policy that you reviewed with us? What was our sort of recommended July 1 low point number? It was July 1 or June 30th, whatever, was under the policy that you developed?
It was a percentage, not a certain dollar amount.
Okay.
So it was 17% of combined general fund and school operating fund expenses for the ensuing fiscal year, so for fiscal 26. And I don't remember the amount, the dollar amount of that offhand.
Is it 5?
No, it was more than 5.
8?
Well, we can pull it up.
Yeah.
Please, if you could.
Is it, oh yeah.
Ann's like, I'm not gonna hire you to help prepare people's taxes. No, it's a really important number.
Were you looking for the dollar
Yeah, I
amount?
think
So
it
I'd have to go
was
back to
dollar
the
amount, so-
agenda from what month was
I'm
that?
sorry, we don't need, it's fine.
Okay.
I just,
May 5th, it says here.
Yeah, May 5th. Stand by.
okay. Again, this goes to the question of what should a locality like ours have in terms of minimum cash on hand at the lowest cash flow point of the year.
It's the last page, I think.
Yeah.
There you
Okay, thank you.
go. So for the liquidity purposes, at the end of fiscal 24, that number would have been 3.1 million.
Okay.
And then unassigned budget stabilization would have been 2 million. So it is 5, you're right, 5.1.
Which will grow each year, right? As the overall budget.
Yes.
It's 5, and then when we were looking at our current cash position, when we reviewed this policy, I think we were floating at 8, which suggested we had an additional $3 million cushion above the 5, right? Or,
Yes, that's
That was that inset here
Okay.
that the board's already committed or designated funds for certain capital,
Yeah.
like the envelope project.
yeah, because in my rebuttal to the mayor who said we planned poorly, I said that we have no debt, haven't increased taxes in 6 years, and have an $8 million cash cushion in the general fund, and I think that's all accurate, so. Okay, you all want to see any other reports while we're here together, this lean, mean machine that we are?
No, and I thought the reporting was great. It's interesting to see the cash flow positions year over year. It's interesting to hear that the bills might hit a little later this year because the trends have been so predictable. See how that plays out.
We've got a crack team. I mean, we've got Bonnie on budget, Debbie in the treasurer's office, and Mary Graham in our revenue office. I mean, and Gary in the administrative position. I think people should feel very good about the team we have in place. So, okay. Any other reports of interest? Art, anything on lawsuits that always seem to be there?
Nothing's changed, as Gary points out in the agenda, so we're just waiting on when the Supreme Court's gonna schedule the arguments on the Flint Hill case.
Okay.
And Harmony Manor just seems to be floating in the air.
No one's scheduling it, so
No.
we're not gonna schedule it.
Yeah, we don't have any reason to get in and get in a hurry.
Okay, great. County administrators, mid-month report. is available to everyone. Anything you want to highlight, Gary and Bonnie, or should we just?
I don't know, we pull these reports together and then we remember what we did or didn't do
No,
for
it's
the
good.
last 15 days.
It's a great record. Okay. Anything you want to update us on the construction renovation project front?
Just to make sure the board is, and I think I've written this in the reports, but Glavine Homes, from their first engagement with them, which Legacy Architecture, Doug Harnsberger, the historical guy,
Yeah.
he was teamed with Glavine Homes for the envelope project, and we're still working on that. We pressed pause when we thought we might be able to get some grant money. That didn't come our way, so we're chugging along now. But Glavine Homes is partnered in that, and they're doing it was like a $21,000 project for the inside of the church, to basically make it just a blank space with plumbing. And then I'll have SRP do a small design part for HVAC. So then you should have just a blank shell of a building with proper ADA access, proper envelope, proper roof, windows, all that stuff. And then you can cycle offices in there. If you're gonna renovate other buildings or do whatever you want, you'd have a space that's functional.
We got to get people
It'll be
out of
functional and presentable. It'll be great.
Both things, yeah. We did get the weeds out of the inside of the windows, so.
Thank goodness.
But we got to get people out of leased space.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's the key.
dangerous space.
Okay, great. Anything else on that front?
The generator at the bus garage is completely done, so.
Great.
Okay, this is our chance to speak freely, as if we haven't already been speaking freely. Donna, do you have anything you want to say?
No, but I'll just say, since Dr. Grimsley wasn't here, I will just share with everyone that the school graduated 56 seniors on Friday, and another, 12 kids are headed to track and field states this Saturday. And I just mentioned that because I believe 8 of them are from the Jackson district.
Wow, something's in the water over there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We got some runners over in
It's
Jackson.
flatter.
It's further away.
Right, yeah. We're on the flat end of the county.
That's great.
That's it.
It's awesome.
Christine?
I just would like to thank the Sheriff's Department, I wish she was still here, EMS, volunteers unpaid, VDOT, Rappahannock Electric, all of our partners and friends that help when we have these wild weather events like we had this year. There have been some really scary weather conditions in this county this year. And I just so appreciate the willingness of all of those people to risk their own lives to save people in the county that have really gotten into some precarious positions. And, I just would hope that when people move to the county or living in the county, I hope people are mindful that I know we say turn around, don't drown, but it's true. It's happened. We all know, I know multiple families that's affected. And it may sound old and hackneyed, but your life is important. If it's bad, go home, turn around, go back where you came from. Because I've seen some people navigating some conditions this year that really made my blood go cold. We have a house in Piedmont District that came before the Planning Commission this month, and I don't mean to get ahead of everyone, but it's down there near the Stanford Guide.
Oh, yeah.
And it had been renovated to where it expanded its footprint in a way that requires a special exception. And I just want to put that on everyone's radar, because I was surprised at how tough a negotiation it was to say that I thought this home, which I don't agree with the way that it was expanded, but it seems to me the least offensive cure for the situation is to check that we're within, not building into the borders where we shouldn't be and that it's not in the floodplain, but to keep it as a residential use, as it always has been, and get on with it. So I don't ask you all to drive past everything when you inherit it from the planning commission, but that's coming up, and it's a little different. So I just wanted to call that out.
Did you have a hearing on that on the planning commission?
We did.
Yeah, I watched
We
that,
did,
yeah.
and I have to say, I made a motion. Mr. Sisk was not in attendance, and so I made a motion to move it forward with confirmation on a couple of the details, regards to the setbacks and the floodplain, things that rightfully should be taken into consideration, as well as downward shielded lighting. And Ms. Ritter was kind enough to second it, and it did not carry, which surprised me. And I understand that folks want to look at something and make it right, make sure it's right, but we want to do the same thing.
Yeah.
And that application had been on the planning commission agenda when we unfortunately had to cancel for lack of a quorum, I think it was in April. And so then we heard her in May. And now she'll be back again with additional details.
Good.
So maybe we can put her on, go ahead and advertise her for the next agenda.
Yeah, I think there are a couple potential special exceptions that might be right to advertise kind of concurrently with the June
Yeah.
15th
That
planning
one in
commission meeting.
particular, because through no fault of her own, she was rescheduled one
One of the
time.
other ones that didn't make it in April, but then couldn't have their schedule aligned to
Lack of
May,
quorum leads.
Right.
yeah, would like
Sugar
to
Mountain.
get going as quickly as
No,
possible
that
as well.
shouldn't be a problem either.
Okay, great.
But that being said, we also haven't really taken that up as a commission, so I don't have everyone's temperature on that.
The risk for this coming month would be 1 week's worth of ads. We would get out there, and then if the planning commission didn't advance it, then we could call the paper and cancel the second week. This last month, it was both,
Right.
just because of the way the weeks fell.
And I know it's not best practice to sort of stack them up like that, but when through no fault of their own, they've been rescheduled, I think it is wise.
Some of our neighbors do, every single one is a joint public
Really?
hearing, yeah.
I think
don't
it's gotten
advocate
us into
that.
trouble though, haven't?
Yeah, I
hasn't
don't
it?
advocate
Yeah.
that. And the state law is changing again on the advertisement requirements, going back to the second notice having to be no less than 5 days from the date of the hearing instead of, it was 5, went to 7, now it's back to 5. And that 5 really messed with the planning commission because of the Wednesday meetings and the Thursday paper. So 5 works, and it'll help us be a little more flexible on notices, and so
Good.
Okay,
That's good news.
that's July 1 change.
I think that's it.
thanks a lot.
Thank you.
And I was trying to set an all-time record for,
I'm sorry, I should have. been
no,
more
it's not, it's
considerate.
my fault, but, so now that we missed the
Blew
record,
it.
I'll just, no, so I just had a few things. I've had some back and forth with, the town of Washington, and at the risk of offering Sir rebuttal to their rebuttal to my polite request to consider possible revenue sharing arrangement, I just wanted to say a few things because I was wrong about a couple of things, and I'm always willing to admit mistakes. So Mr. Sullivan, who was here earlier, has left unfortunately because this would have really been for him. He wrote a letter to the Rappahannock News, which the current mayor and a former mayor signed. And in that letter, he pointed out that I had repeated over and over that the population of the town is 84. If you Google what is the population of the town of Washington, Virginia, it says 84. So I guess I shouldn't rely on the internet. He said with the addition of the 18 housing units at Rush River Commons, the population is 115 rough numbers. So I apologize for that egregious error. It's not, as I said in my letter, a town that represents 1% of the population of Rappahannock County. It's in fact a town that represents 1.5% of the population. So again, I apologize for that mistake. Other thing I think that's important to point out, I've received in person and in writing many comments in support of the letter that I issued to the town requesting that they increase their meals and lodging tax rate to match the county's former rate of 4%, and then to share the additional revenue generated once the rates increased. Almost everyone I've talked to has said they absolutely agree with the idea. Nobody in the town's really talked to me about it, so it probably speaks to how they feel about it. But one thing I do want to say to those who support the idea, just to make sure we're clear on this, the town does do its part in the sense that, I mean, the county gains real property tax revenue from the town. That's not insignificant, obviously, with the Little Washington renovating buildings and those increasing real estate assessments. So the county does earn quite a lot of revenue from real property taxes on town properties. And then, of course, we also get from the state some share of sales tax revenue that's collected in Rappahannock County, and not an insignificant portion of that comes from sales tax receipts generated from the Little Washington and other businesses in the town. So I do want to make sure that everyone understands that this request was not to say that the town doesn't support the county in any way. Sales tax and real property tax revenue definitely comes into the county coffers. Once that revenue is added to our own meals and lodging tax revenue, personal property tax revenue, and other real property tax revenue in the county as a whole, it's an interesting number to think about. On a per capita basis, our local tax revenue, again, per capita expressed on a per person basis, comes out to be about $2,200 per year. And if you take the town population at 78 or 115 and you consider their local tax revenue, which is meals and lodging tax, per capita revenue in the town, per capita local tax revenue in the town is $6,600 per person. So it's about 3 times the revenue per person in the county as a whole. So it's, again, I think it's perhaps an apples and oranges comparison, but in the end, I was trying to address sort of an inequity that I think a lot of people now have understood better. So if nothing else, my request for consideration has at least brought the question up, and the town government's made it quite clear that they have no interest in discussing it further. So I trust that's the end of it. And the last thing I want to say is that several members of the town government and other prominent citizens in the town were quick to criticize me for blocking the construction of 20 additional housing units on the corner as part of the Rush River project. And they said that, I made that a condition of the boundary line adjustment for Rush River Commons. And that is true, that was a condition. What several of those people have failed to say is that certain of those people were the very ones who were saying to me quietly that they didn't want 20 more houses on the corner in the town of Washington. So I think it's a little rich to now conveniently throw me under the bus for staking out a position that they supported at the time. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
I think it's an interesting question, and I'm happy to help you work through any details if you want to move things forward. I'll collaborate with you in an informal way on anything that I can help.
I really appreciate it, and I think I want to have productive, friendly discussions with the town government, and I probably could have waited to a better time to issue the letter. I'll admit another mistake. Timing wasn't the best, but then the flip side of it is the timing was ideal, because we're up here battling over trying to balance a budget with a request for an additional $1 million in funding from the schools. As I said to Rachel Bynum from the school board and others when you're here for the budget meeting, the county side of the budget, thanks to all of us and thanks to our great staff, the county side of the budget is in pretty good shape. I mean, again, cash on hand, no tax increases for a long time, and we have been spending money on EMS and other important things, but yet we've done that without increasing taxes. So it's in that context that I thought it was worthwhile to raise the question again. Obviously, my effort to state it in polite terms as a request for consideration, maybe I should have been even more polite, and to that end, maybe I should have timed it differently, and I'm willing to admit that in the heat of the moment, while we're trying to settle our own county budget, might not have been the best time to issue that letter. and maybe I could have handled it better, and I apologize if I didn't. And I hope that at least my relationship with the town government is one that can be repaired, and I would welcome the opportunity to work with any of you to talk to the town about gaining economies of scale through cooperative agreements on any number of fronts.
Well, I'm sure not all is lost, and I have no doubt that your relationship is not only not as damaged as you think it might be, and I have no doubt that you'll be able to repair any damage done. Also, I think all of us, I can't speak for the two who are not here, but I don't think anyone would not link arms with you and get behind you as you continue forward with this conversation.
Thank you.
So,
Thanks. We'll go ahead and recess until 7 o'clock, and then we'll have the band back together, so to speak, all 5 of us. Thanks for coming out.
Do you want to look at the resolution? Is there anything in particular that concerns you?